G'day. Police Horse Cody and Mounted Constable Steve bringing you one of our policing videos, and this is the Ned Kelly series, and it's an unplanned video. And that's because shortly after I started my Ned Kelly series, a very nice bloke from England, Stan, sent me a message, very supportive, liked the video, but said he had lived and worked in Australia for quite a few years, and so he couldn't really understand my videos being about what a bad person Ned was, when Ned seems to be loved and adored by the Australian public. Made me think that it's a bloody great topic actually for a video, because within 24 hours of him saying that to me, I got sent a link to a Ned Kelly site. Actually, no, I'm not going to be specific, and it had 500,000 views, and it had had 23,000 comments made, and all of those comments basically summed up to, "We love you, Ned. You're my hero, Ned." And so when Stan in England said, "Yeah, you're telling your story, Stephen, I like them, but it goes against what society seems like in Australia," I thought, I've got to make a video and see if I can explain this, which isn't easy because I am not a psychiatrist. I probably should see one, but I'm not one. And when I was doing some police studies for promotion, I had to do a couple of psychology subjects, but they lasted for about 6 months, or a couple of hours a week for 6 months. So I'm not really qualified, apart from being a nutcase myself. But anyway, how about we start off with urban myths. Urban myths. Think of an urban myth that you know, that's, whether you're in England, America, Canada, Botswana, the Arctic, you're going to have an urban myth. And so one that comes to mind, there's several that come to mind. What about if you get bitten by a spider in some overseas country and you come back home and suddenly you're breeding spiders under your skin. You've been infected and the spiders burst out of a boil in your skin. One that was doing the rounds in Australia for a while was American cactus being brought to Australia, and they're growing really well, and then suddenly they explode and 1,000 tarantulas burst out of the cactus. Another one that's done the rounds is people going overseas holidays and they're coming back on the aeroplane and they land and they collapse shortly after they land, and when they're examined it's found that their liver and kidneys and lungs and heart and brain, has been taken out of them in some Asian country, and then they're whacked on a plane and they collapse there's urban myths. There are countless urban myths. So I'll take this opportunity then to tell you a cop urban myth. You go to a cop party where there's a bunch of coppers, and you'll hear this story now and again comes up, and it always makes me laugh, because basically what it is, it's a story about how a young girl starts work in a men's hairdresser's, and she's sweeping the floor, and the barber just steps out for a minute, and as she's sweeping the floor she notices there's this old man sitting in his chair waiting to have his hair cut. He's got his robe around him and he's sitting there, and under the robe she starts to see this movement under the robe, and she goes, "You dirty old man," and she sweeps with the broom and she whacks him across the head, and he falls out the chair bleeding and he's unconscious. And then when they come and see what was happening, underneath the gown had his spectacles in his hand, and he was cleaning his spectacle lenses under the cover, and she thought he was doing something. Now I call that a cop urban legend, because you will hear that story around the world when a bunch of coppers get together. They swear it's true, but it probably might have happened once. But did it happen 50 times in 50 different countries? So that's a cop urban myth. I just sort of wanted to lay a bit of groundwork there about urban myths. They spread around the world even before the internet and social media. Those stories flew around the world, urban myths. So let's move on now then to the next topic, which is, have you ever been at a party and someone says, those bloody coppers, I was doing 61 kilometres an hour in a 60 speed limit, or I was doing 36 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour speed limit, and those bloody coppers, they pinched me for 1 kilometre an hour. And I've heard one once when I was at a party, and I heard someone say, these coppers pulled me over, they pinched me for wearing a pair of thongs, flip-flops, when I was driving because I wasn't driving in proper shoes. So basically, at a party, people have had a few drinks, and they tell the most outrageous pork pies about coppers, because people just like to bag coppers. They just like to tell stories. Stories aren't even true, they get embellished. So we know that cop bagging exists. People don't like getting pulled over. So has anyone in their entire life been pulled over for speeding and said, thank you, officer, I didn't realise I was speeding. I appreciate you not only stopping me, telling me that I was speeding, but giving me several $100 fine as well. Thank you. Of course not. Generally, most of the time, people are a bit anti-police. It's human nature. When you're a kid, you rebel against your parents. It's just human nature. But it's even worse than police, because parking inspectors. Has anyone ever said anything nice on this planet about a parking inspector? What about your local council? What about when your dog wanders off and you get a fine for your dog wandering? Or you go to burn some garbage in your back garden and you get a fine for burning garbage? Or you build a bit of a shed on the side of your house and next minute there's a knock at the door by the council saying you haven't got a permit to build your shed. Those are the sort of things that rub people the wrong way. People like to complain about it. And then we come to the very pinnacle of all the, if you want to call it the man, remember in School of Rock, stick it to the man. Who's the top of the pinnacle for the man? The tax man. Again, nobody ever said, wow, I just got a letter from the taxation department, that I forget what you call it in America, but I just got a letter from the tax man. He wants me to come in and audit my books. Woohoo, I'm looking forward to that. So people don't like authority. They rebel against authority. They wish they could do something about authority. But 99% of the population hasn't got the courage to rebel themselves. They won't do it themselves, but when they see somebody else rebelling, then they cheer them on, they egg them on. So there's a brawl in the street that's getting a bit out of control, and there's the police there. People stand around cheering on the brawlers taking on the police. There's looting going on. Many times people won't loot themselves, but they egg on the crowd. So what I'm trying to give you a picture of here is that authority, people don't like authority, they rebel against authority, they might not have the courage to do it themselves, but they are then willing to encourage other people. So you see, a great one would be Facebook, and you see the backs of 2 or 3 Hell's Angels, and you see they're at Toys R Us, and they've bought 20 or 30 push bikes, which they're going to give to children. Now, when you read the comments on Facebook, you see, wow, isn't that fantastic that the Hell's Angels have done that? They're good guys at heart. That's really great. The Hell's Angels have bought... The reality is, Hell's Angels bought a bunch of bikes for less than they make in an hour, probably, involving drug dealing and organised crime. And they're getting great publicity from that, but they're also getting people say, oh, you know, they ride around on their loud bikes, but they're just misunderstood. They're really good guys at heart. So what I'm trying to lead to here is this is why all of what I've said is why Ned Kelly got on that one post I told you about where there were 23,000 comments about "we love you, Ned," and that's why. He's seen as rebelling against authority. He's achieving something that the average person couldn't, doesn't want to pay tax. Ned never paid tax. Good on you, Ned. Ned robbed a bank. Good on you, Ned. The money was insured anyway. When Ned was trying to destroy evidence, he burnt every piece of paper in the bank. He's a hero because all of those people's mortgages that got burnt, who could ever prove how much they owed? So these are all reasons why people love Ned without thinking about the missing witnesses, one of my videos, and without thinking about the murdered police. So where we are now, as I say, nobody thinks about the murdered police officers. So what that brings me to is in North East Victoria today, an entire area is called Kelly Country. The Victorian government advertised the Ned Kelly Trail. This is because Ned Kelly is a monumental, massive money spinner. So when you think of Ned, you've got car stickers, t-shirts, clothing, ordinary shirts, you've got tattoo artists that do tattoos, you've got mugs, cups, stubby holders, posters, framed pictures, wanted posters, reproduced wanted posters. You've got statues, models, figures, horseback figures, armour figures, replica armour. You've got garden ornaments by the score related to Ned Kelly and the Ned. That is a huge money spinner. But on top of all that, what you've got is what I've just said to you. You've got the Victorian government publicising the Ned Kelly Trail. The Ned Kelly Trail is over 650 kilometres long. It weaves and meanders through Kelly Country. The Victorian government suggests you take at least a minimum of 3 days to explore Kelly Country. 3 days minimum, which involves eating, drinking, restaurants, wineries, buying wine, buying souvenirs, spending money, buying petrol, staying in accommodation. What a monumental, massive money spinner Ned Kelly is. So I had to cut a little bit out then because I talked on something a bit more unpleasant from World War II, and if they tried to turn that site into a tourist resort, and that might be going just a bit too far for this video. So what I'm going to say is that I've told you the Victorian government say it takes a minimum of 3 days to travel 650 kilometres, and what they say is that you should visit the following towns: Beechworth, Mansfield, Beveridge, Avonell, Euroa, Benalla, Glenrowan, Greta, Powers Lookout, the Stringybark Creek Reserve. And with all of these places, they give a description of the various things that you can see on that 650 kilometre route. Where Ned was born, where his mum set up a brothel. Always important to visit a place where someone's mother set up a brothel. Where Anne Jones's inn was, where they attempted to murder innumerable police officers by derailing the train, another important site to visit. And of course the best part is when they say go to Stringybark Creek Reserve and see the tree that is thought to be the shooting site. They say in all the correspondence, in all the plaques say where 3 officers were shot. Not where 3 officers were murdered in cold blood. Not where 3 officers were shot before they had a chance to arm themselves. Not where, don't say not where Sergeant Kennedy was, we'll talk about this in the Stringy Park video, but just touch on the fact that autopsy showed that Kennedy, one of the bullets in Kennedy was when he had his hands up because it went into his armpit, so he had his arms up and was surrendering when he was shot. And they don't also say that having murdered 3 policemen at the Stringy Park Creek, please go and visit, take a picnic lunch, sit under the trees, but they don't say that Sergeant Kennedy's watch was stolen by Ned, and they don't say that McLaughlin's wedding ring and Scanlon's family ring was stolen from each of those 2 police officers and were on Joe's body. He was wearing them when at Glenrowan when he was shot. So hopefully, has this video really achieved the purpose of showing why Ned is loved by many around Australia so very wrongly, and we are just one small voice, aren't we, mate? Small voice. Well, actually, he's not even a large voice. He's not saying much at all. He's staying out of it because he thinks it's too controversial. But anyway, there you go. Let's see how that works. Cheers, cobbers. Till next time.